The text came at 2:47 a.m., lighting up my phone like a flare in the darkness of our bedroom. Emergency business trip. Flying out early. Don't wait up, Sarah. I stared at the screen. My mechanic's hands still stained with grease from yesterday's transmission job. 22 years of marriage, and my wife had never sent me a text like this. Sarah planned everything down to the minute. She color-coded her calendar and scheduled our sex life like oil changes. The house felt different with her gone. Too quiet. I padded to the kitchen in my boxers, stepping over the creaky floorboard that Sarah always nagged me to fix. The coffee maker gurgled to life, and I checked my phone again. No follow-up messages, no flight details, nothing. Dad, where's Mom? Emily shuffled into the kitchen, her 15-year-old face puffy with sleep and teenage attitude. Business trip, I said, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one that said World's Okayest Husband, that Emily had given me last Father's Day. That's weird. She didn't say anything yesterday. Emily grabbed a Pop-Tart and started scrolling through her phone. She usually makes those big announcements about traveling, you know? Like she's the first person to ever leave town. Kids, they see everything adults try to hide. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Is this Tom Mitchell? This is Harold Harlan from Brennan, Kessler and Associates. I'm looking for Sarah. She missed our 8 a.m. meeting with the Pemberton clients. This is highly unusual for her. I knew Harlan. Sarah's demanding boss who treated his lawyers like indentured servants. Sarah had been working late for weeks, supposedly preparing for some big case. She had a family emergency, I lied smoothly. Had to fly out this morning. I see. Well, have her call me immediately when she's available. This cannot happen again. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, pieces of a puzzle starting to form in my mind. Sarah never missed meetings. She lived for that law firm, sacrificed family dinners and weekend plans for billable hours. Emily was watching me over her phone. Dad, you look weird. Like when you're trying to figure out why an engine won't start. Smart kid. Too smart. Just tired, sweetheart. Get ready for school. One day, after Emily left, I did something I'd never done before. I went into Sarah's home office, a sterile white room that looked like a medical examination table. Her laptop was closed, but I knew her password, Emily's birthday, the same one she'd used for everything for years. Her email loaded, no travel confirmations, no emergency messages. But there was something else. A receipt from the Grandview Inn, dated yesterday, room 237. 2 nights, paid in advance. The Grandview Inn. That seedy motel on Route 9 where truckers and cheaters went to disappear. My coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on her pristine white desk. I called in sick to the garage, something I hadn't done in 3 years. Ricky, my best friend and the owner of Mitchell's Auto Repair, didn't ask questions. Take care of whatever you need to take care of, Tom. Shop will be here when you get back. That's what I loved about Ricky. 25 years of friendship, and he knew when to shut up and trust me. I spent the morning playing detective in my own house. Sarah's jewelry box was missing her good earrings, the diamond studs I'd bought her for our anniversary. Her overnight bag was gone, along with the black lingerie set I'd never seen her wear. In the kitchen trash, I found a wine cork from an expensive bottle, the kind Sarah only bought for special occasions. 2 lipstick stains on the rim of her wine glass, sitting in the dishwasher. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Trip extended. Won't be home until Friday. It was Tuesday. I grabbed my truck keys and drove to the Grandview Inn. The parking lot looked like a graveyard for broken dreams. Rusted pickup trucks, a few economy cars, and one vehicle that made my blood pressure spike, a silver BMW sedan. License plate. Loy Wee 1, Sarah's car. Parked right next to a black Audi, with the vanity plate, Winner. I knew that Audi. Ben Castellano, Sarah's so-called business partner from the firm. Smooth-talking, fake-tanned pretty boy, who wore suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, until my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to march up to room 237 and kick down the door. The other part wanted to drive home and pretend I'd never seen this. Instead, I did something that would have made my old army buddies proud. I got out of my truck and walked over to Ben's Audi. Popped the hood like I was a good Samaritan checking on a broken-down vehicle. Pulled out the spark plugs and tucked them in my pocket. Then I left a note under his windshield wiper. Have a fun night, Sarah. Your loving husband. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Power. For once in my marriage, I wasn't the guy getting played. My phone buzzed with an email as I pulled into my driveway. The subject line made my stomach drop. Thought you should see this. Attached was a photo of me at the motel, clear as day, standing next to Ben's car. Someone else was watching. Someone who knew exactly what I was doing. The anonymous email came from a burner account. No name, no signature, just that photo and a message. Interesting hobby you've picked up, Tom. I forwarded the email to my personal account and deleted it from Sarah's computer. If someone wanted to play games, they'd pick the wrong mechanic. Sarah came home Friday night, like nothing had happened. Kissed my cheek, asked about Emily's week, complained about her exhausting business trip to Albany. How did the Pemberton meeting go? I asked casually over dinner. She didn't miss a beat. Challenging clients, but we made progress. Emily looked up from her phone. Mom, Jenna called looking for you yesterday. Said you missed your yoga class. Jenna Morrison, Sarah's best friend since law school. They did everything together. Yoga, wine tastings, weekend shopping trips. If anyone would cover for Sarah's lies, it would be Jenna. I'll call her back, Sarah said. But I caught the flash of panic in her eyes. That night, I pretended to be asleep when Sarah slipped out of bed at midnight. Through half-closed eyes, I watched her grab her phone and tiptoe to the bathroom. The soft murmur of her voice carried through the thin door. Can't keep doing this. Tom's getting suspicious. Need to be more careful. Sunday morning brought our usual routine. Sarah at her laptop, Emily on her phone, me reading the sports section. Normal suburban family bullshit. Then Ben Castellano showed up. He knocked on our front door like he belonged here, wearing khakis and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my work boots. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect fake smile. Hey Tom, hope you don't mind me stopping by. Sarah left some case files in my car. I opened the door wider, studying his face. Car trouble the other day. Saw your Audi on the side of Route 9. His smile flickered. Yeah, weird electrical problem. Had to get it towed. Spark plugs, I said. Always check the spark plugs first. Sarah appeared behind me, her face flushed. Ben, you didn't have to drive all the way out here. No problem. We're partners, right? The way he said partners made me want to introduce his perfect teeth to my work-hardened fist. I watched them through the kitchen window as they stood by his car. Sarah's body language was all wrong. Touching his arm, standing too close, laughing at something he whispered in her ear. Emily joined me at the window. Mom's been acting weird lately, like weirder than usual. How so? She keeps getting these calls that make her all giggly. And yesterday I saw her buying new underwear at Victoria's Secret. Since when does Mom shop there? Out of the mouths of babes. That evening, I found Sarah's burner phone. It was tucked inside an old purse in her closet, behind her winter coats. A cheap flip phone loaded with text messages that made my 22-year marriage feel like a joke. Ben, can't wait to taste you again. Sarah, Tom's working late tomorrow. Come over at 8. Your husband's an idiot. How does he not know? Sarah, he's too busy with his cars to notice anything. But the messages that really got my attention weren't from Ben. They were from Jenna. Make sure you delete everything. Tom's smarter than he looks. Ben's getting careless. Maybe it's time to end this. Don't worry about Tom. I've got a plan. I photographed every message, uploaded them to a cloud account, and put the phone back exactly where I found it. Time to find out what Jenna's plan was. Jenna Morrison lived in one of those cookie-cutter developments where every house looked the same and every lawn was perfectly manicured. She answered the door in yoga pants and a tank top, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun that probably took 30 minutes to perfect. Tom, what a surprise. Is everything okay? Just wanted to talk about Sarah. Her smile tightened. Of course, come in. Jenna's living room looked like a magazine spread. White furniture, abstract art. Not a thing out of place. She offered me coffee, which I declined, then sat across from me with her legs tucked under her like a cat. Sarah's been stressed lately, she said before I could speak. The Pemberton case is really demanding. Funny thing about that case, I said. I called the firm. There is no Pemberton case. Jenna's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. Maybe I got the name wrong. Sarah handles so many clients. Cut the shit, Jenna. I know about Ben. She leaned forward, her expression shifting from fake concern to something harder. What do you think you know? I know my wife's been screwing her business partner. I know you've been covering for her. What I don't know is why you care so much about Sarah's affair. Jenna stood up and walked to the window, her back to me. Marriage is complicated, Tom. Sometimes people need outlets. Outlets. She turned around, and for the first time since I'd known her, Jenna looked genuinely angry. You want the truth? Sarah's been unhappy for years. You work all day, come home covered in grease, drink beer, and watch TV. When's the last time you took her somewhere nice? When's the last time you made her feel special? So this is my fault? You're a good man, Tom, but you're not the man Sarah needs anymore. I stood up, my hands clenched into fists. And Ben is. Ben appreciates her. He listens to her. He makes her feel alive. Sounds like you know Ben pretty well yourself. Something flickered in Jenna's eyes. Surprise? Fear? Something else I couldn't identify. I should go, I said. Thanks for the honesty. As I reached the door, Jenna grabbed my arm. Tom, wait, don't do anything stupid. Sarah does love you, in her way, and Emily needs both her parents. I looked down at her manicured fingers on my work shirt. Funny, Sarah said the same thing about you once, that you'd do anything for the people you love. I left Jenna standing in her perfect doorway, looking like someone had just told her the world was ending. Because maybe it was. 2 weeks later, everything exploded at Emily's school talent show. I was sitting in the auditorium, saving seats for Sarah and Jenna, when they walked in together. Sarah looked beautiful, in a black dress I'd never seen before. Jenna wore red, her arm linked through Sarah's, like they were the ones married to each other. Sorry we're late, Sarah said, sliding into the seat next to me. Traffic was terrible. But I'd seen them in the parking lot 20 minutes earlier, sitting in Sarah's car, heads close together, talking intensely about something. Emily performed a piano piece she'd been practicing for months. She was brilliant, my daughter, talented and smart and everything good in my life. When she finished, I stood up and applauded like she'd just won the Grammy Awards. She's amazing, Ben's voice came from behind me. I turned around. He was sitting 2 rows back with some woman I didn't recognize. Brunette, expensive clothes, wedding ring. Ben, Sarah said, her voice tight. I didn't know you were coming. Wouldn't miss it. Emily's like family. The woman next to him leaned forward. I'm Lisa, Ben's wife. You must be Sarah. Ben talks about you constantly. The temperature in the auditorium seemed to drop 10 degrees. After the show, we all ended up in the parking lot. Emily was showing off her participation ribbon to anyone who would listen. Lisa was asking Sarah about the law firm. Ben was checking his phone every 30 seconds, like he was expecting bad news. We should celebrate, Jenna suggested. Dinner at Romano's? I can't, Ben said quickly. Lisa and I have plans. Of course you do, I said. Married couples should spend time together. Ben's face went red. Lisa looked confused. Sarah grabbed my arm. Tom, can I talk to you privately? We walked to the edge of the parking lot, away from the others. What the hell are you doing? Sarah hissed. Being a supportive husband. Why? Is there a problem? You're acting strange, hostile. Maybe I'm just tired of being treated like an idiot. Sarah's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about the Grandview Inn. I know about the business trips that aren't business trips. I know about the burner phone. For a moment, Sarah looked like she might deny everything. Then her shoulders sagged. How long have you known? Long enough. Tom, I can explain. Don't. Just don't. I walked back toward the group, leaving Sarah standing alone under the parking lot lights. Emily was still chattering excitedly about her performance. Jenna was watching me with calculating eyes. Ben was helping his wife into their car. Everything okay? Jenna asked. Perfect, I said. Absolutely perfect. That night, Sarah slept in the guest room. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. The war had officially begun. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it involves scandal. Within a week, everyone knew Tom and Sarah Mitchell were having problems. What they didn't know was that I'd started keeping a detailed record of everything. Dates, times, photographs, copies of text messages. My first casualty was Mike Henderson, my drinking buddy from the American Legion. We'd been friends since high school, served in the army together, stood up at each other's weddings. Heard you and Sarah are going through a rough patch, Mike said over beers at Murphy's Tavern. You could say that. Want to talk about it? So I told him. Everything. The affair, the lies, the cover-ups. Mike listened without interrupting, nursing his beer and nodding in the right places. That's rough, buddy, he said when I finished. But maybe you should consider counseling. Marriage is work, you know. Sometimes people make mistakes. Mistakes? Mike. She's been screwing this guy for months, maybe longer. Look, I like Sarah. She's always been good to Linda and me. Maybe there's more to the story. That's when I realized I was losing him. Mike was choosing sides, and it wasn't mine. The next casualty was Dave Kowalski, my neighbor and weekend golf partner. Dave's wife, Carol, was friends with Sarah through some charity committee. Carol thinks you're being too hard on Sarah, Dave told me while we were replacing his brake pads in my garage. Says Sarah's been crying, talking about how you've changed. I've changed? Maybe you should cut her some slack. Work on things together. I set down my wrench and looked at Dave. Your wife's been talking to Sarah about our marriage? They're friends, Tom. Friends talk. And what exactly has Sarah been telling Carol? Dave shifted uncomfortably. That you've been paranoid, following her around, going through her things. Did she mention the part where she's been cheating on me? She says that's not true. Says you're imagining things. I pulled out my phone and showed Dave one of the photos I'd taken of the text messages. His face went white. Jesus, Tom. Where did you get this? Her burner phone. You went through her phone? It's not her phone, Dave. It's a secret phone she uses to coordinate with her lover. But Dave was already shaking his head. This is getting too messy for me, buddy. Carol doesn't want us getting involved in your marriage problems. Another friend, gone. The final straw came at Ricky's gym. I'd been working out there for 15 years, part of a tight group of guys who spotted each other and talked trash and kept each other sane. They all knew about Sarah, but nobody had said much until Jimmy Torino opened his big mouth. My cousin Sal works at the Grandview Inn, Jimmy said while we were lifting. Says he's seen Sarah there with some guy, multiple times. No shit, I said, loading more weight onto the bar. But here's the thing, Tom. Sal says it wasn't just some guy. Says Sarah was there with Jenna Morrison too. All three of them together, if you know what I mean. The weight bar slipped from my hands and crashed to the floor. What did you say? Look, I don't know if it's true, but Sal says he saw them going into the same room. Sarah, the guy, and Jenna. Says it happened more than once. The other guys were staring now. Ricky walked over from the office. Everything okay? I looked around at these men I'd considered friends. They were all watching me like I was some kind of freak show. You all knew, I said slowly. You all fucking knew. Tom, Ricky started. How long? How long have you been talking about my wife behind my back? Nobody answered. I grabbed my gym bag and headed for the door. Tom, wait, Jimmy called out. We're your friends. We're trying to help. I turned around. Friends don't let friends look like idiots for months, while their wives are screwing around. What did you want us to do? Ricky asked. Come to you with rumors and gossip? I wanted you to have my back. We do have your back. No, you don't. You have front row seats to watch my marriage implode. I walked out of that gym and never went back. Losing my friends hurt worse than discovering Sarah's affair. These were men I'd trusted with my life, and they'd all chosen to protect Sarah's reputation over our friendship. But Jimmy's revelation about Jenna changed everything. I started following Jenna, using techniques I'd learned in the army. She had a routine. Yoga at 6 a.m., coffee at Starbucks, work at the insurance agency, lunch with various friends, home by 6 p.m. Except on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, Jenna drove to a small apartment complex on the other side of town. She'd park in the back, use a key to let herself into Unit 12B, and stay for exactly 2 hours. The apartment was rented under the name J. Morrison. I waited until the following Wednesday, then used my locksmith skills, another army specialty, to get inside after Jenna left. The apartment was a love nest. Expensive furniture, silk sheets, champagne in the refrigerator. Photo albums filled with pictures of Sarah and Jenna together. Vacations I'd never heard about. Intimate dinners, weekend trips. And in the bedroom closet, I found Sarah's missing jewelry and clothes. This wasn't just an affair. This was a second life. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Dad, where are you? Mom's freaking out about something. I drove home to find Sarah pacing in the living room, her face streaked with tears. We need to talk, she said, finally ready to tell the truth. I'm leaving you, Tom. Emily looked up from the couch, her face pale. What? Not now, honey, Sarah said. Go to your room. No. Emily stood up, her teenage defiance in full display. If you're breaking up our family, I want to know why. Sarah looked at me, then back at Emily. Your father and I have grown apart. Sometimes marriages just end. That's bullshit, Mom. Emily's voice was shaking. Dad told me about Ben, about the cheating. Sarah's face went white. Tom, how could you involve our daughter in this? I didn't involve her. She's 15, not stupid. She figured it out herself. Is it true, Mom? Emily asked. Are you cheating on Dad? Sarah sat down heavily, her perfect composure cracking. It's complicated, sweetheart. No, it's not, I said. Your mother has been having an affair, multiple affairs, actually. That's not, Sarah started. Ben Castellano and Jenna Morrison. Neathaland. The silence in the room was deafening. Emily looked confused. Jenna? But she's your best friend. She's more than that, I said, watching Sarah's face crumble. They've been together for years. Ben was just a cover story. Tom, please, Sarah whispered. Please what? Please keep pretending? Please keep being the idiot husband who doesn't notice his wife has a secret apartment with another woman? Emily sank back onto the couch, her phone forgotten in her lap. I don't understand. Your mother is gay, Emily, or bisexual. I don't really know the difference anymore. What I know is that she's been lying to both of us for years. Sarah was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I never meant for this to happen. Which part? The lying or the getting caught? I love you, Tom. I do. But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. Then why didn't you just divorce me? Why the elaborate charade with Ben? Why make me look like a fool in front of the whole town? Sarah wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. Because I was scared. Scared of losing Emily. Scared of what people would think. Scared of starting over. So you decided to destroy me instead. I never wanted to hurt you, I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. You never wanted to hurt me? Sarah, you turned my friends against me. You made me question my sanity. You let me think I was losing my mind while you played house with Jenna? Emily stood up abruptly. I can't listen to this anymore. She ran upstairs, slamming her bedroom door. Sarah and I stared at each other across the wreckage of our living room. What happens now? She asked. Now you get exactly what you deserve. I spent the next 3 days putting together the most comprehensive revenge plan of my life. If Sarah wanted to destroy our marriage, I was going to make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, every moment she'd made me feel like a fool. First, I gathered evidence, real evidence that would hold up in divorce court and in the court of public opinion. Photos of the secret apartment. Copies of financial records showing Sarah had been using our joint credit cards to pay for her double life. Bank statements proving she'd been funneling money to Jenna for months. Then I made copies of everything and stored them in multiple locations. Safety deposit box, cloud storage, with my lawyer. Next, I started making phone calls. Harold Harlan's office. This is Tom Mitchell, Sarah Mitchell's husband. I need to speak with Mr. Harlan about some irregularities in my wife's expense reports. I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell, but we can't discuss employee matters with family members, even when those expenses include charges for hotel rooms that were used for personal affairs instead of business meetings. There was a long pause. Please hold. Harlan came on the line 30 seconds later. Mr. Mitchell, what exactly are you alleging? I'm not alleging anything. I'm stating facts. My wife has been using company funds to conduct personal affairs. I have receipts, credit card statements, and photographic evidence. This is a very serious accusation. Yes, it is. I thought you should know before I take this information to the State Bar Association. Another pause. Can you come in tomorrow morning? Say 9 a.m.? I'll be there. My second call was to Ben Castellano's wife, Lisa. Mrs. Castellano, this is Tom Mitchell. We met at Emily's school concert. Oh, yes. Hello, Tom. Is everything all right? I'm afraid not. I have some information about your husband that you need to hear. The meeting with Lisa was harder than I'd expected. She was a nice woman, genuinely shocked by the photos and evidence I showed her. She cried, which made me feel like shit, but she also got angry, which made me feel vindicated. How long has this been going on? She asked. At least 6 months that I can prove, probably longer. And you're sure it's not just business? I showed her the text messages between Ben and Sarah, the explicit ones. Lisa's face hardened. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you deserved to know the truth. What are you going to do with this information? I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who Sarah and Ben really are. My third call was to Emily's school counselor. Mrs. Patterson? This is Tom Mitchell, Emily's father. I wanted to give you a heads up about some family issues that might affect Emily's behavior in school. Of course, Mr. Mitchell. What's going on? My wife and I are getting divorced. Emily just found out that her mother has been having affairs. She's pretty shaken up. I'm so sorry to hear that. We'll keep an eye on Emily and provide whatever support she needs. There's one more thing. Emily's been posting about our family problems on social media. I'm worried about her privacy and safety. We can certainly address that with her. Actually, I was hoping you could help me understand something. Emily mentioned that she's been talking to someone at school about our problems. An adult who's been encouraging her to share details about what's happening at home. There was a pause. That would be highly inappropriate if true. Do you know who this person might be? I think it might be Jenna Morrison. She volunteers with the drama club, and she's been asking Emily a lot of questions about me and Sarah. We'll look into this immediately. By Friday, all the pieces were in place. Sarah had no idea what was coming. Neither did Jenna. The annual Riverside Community Block Party was the social event of the year in our little town. Everyone came, families, local politicians, business owners, retirees. It was the kind of wholesome community gathering where reputations were made and destroyed over potato salad and gossip. Sarah had been planning to attend with Jenna, playing the role of the wronged wife whose husband had become paranoid and controlling. I'd heard through Emily that Sarah was telling people I was having a mental breakdown, that I'd been following her around and making wild accusations. Perfect. I arrived early and set up near the main stage, where local bands and community leaders made announcements throughout the day. I'd volunteered to help with the sound system, using my technical skills to ensure everything would work perfectly when the time came. Sarah and Jenna arrived together, both dressed in summer dresses and fake smiles. They worked the crowd like politicians, accepting sympathy and support from neighbors who believed Sarah's version of events. Ben showed up alone. Lisa had apparently decided to skip the festivities. Emily came with her friend Madison and her family. She'd been quiet all week, processing the destruction of everything she'd believed about our family. I felt terrible for putting her through this, but she deserved to know the truth. At 2 p.m., I approached the stage during a break between performances. "Excuse me," I said to the event coordinator. "I'd like to make a brief announcement." "Of course, Tom. What's it about?" "I just want to thank some people publicly." I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the crowd of about 200 people. Sarah was standing near the food trucks with Jenna, both of them looking relaxed and confident. Good afternoon, everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. "For those who don't know me, I'm Tom Mitchell. I've lived in this community for over 20 years, raised my daughter here, built friendships here." A few people applauded politely. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank some very special people who have taught me important lessons about truth, loyalty, and friendship. Sarah was looking at me now, her face starting to show concern. "First, I'd like to thank my wife, Sarah Mitchell, for her years of dedicated service." I paused, letting the crowd focus on Sarah. Her service to Ben Castellano, her service to Jenna Morrison, and her service to anyone else who needed her attention. The crowd was getting uncomfortable now. Sarah had gone pale. "You see, I recently discovered that my wife has been leading a double life. She's been having affairs, using our family money to maintain a secret apartment, and lying to everyone in this community about who she really is." "Tom, stop," Sarah called out, but her voice was lost in the murmur of the crowd. I pulled out a folder of photographs. "I have evidence of everything: photos, text messages, financial records. Sarah and her best friend Jenna have been lovers for years, using Ben Castellano as a cover story to hide their relationship." The murmur became a roar. People were pulling out their phones, recording everything. "But the best part," I continued, "is that they convinced half this town that I was the problem, that I was paranoid, controlling, mentally unstable. They turned my friends against me, made me question my own sanity, all while they were laughing behind my back." Jenna was trying to push through the crowd toward the stage, her face twisted with rage. "Tom, you bastard," she screamed. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I held up a key. "This is the key to apartment 12B at Riverside Gardens, the apartment you rent under your name, Jenna. The apartment where you and Sarah have been playing house while I worked 60-hour weeks to support our family." And Sarah had started crying, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of fury. "You're destroying our daughter," she yelled. "How could you do this to Emily?" "I'm not destroying anything, Sarah. I'm just telling the truth, something you forgot how to do years ago." I looked out at the crowd, many of whom were my former friends. Mike Henderson was staring at me with his mouth open. Dave Kowalski was recording with his phone. The guys from the gym were clustered together, looking like they'd been hit by a truck. "I also want to thank my former friends," I said. "Mike, Dave, Jimmy, all you guys who knew what was happening and decided to protect my wife's reputation instead of telling me the truth. Thanks for teaching me what real friendship looks like." The crowd was starting to disperse. people rushing to spread the gossip or get away from the drama. Sarah and Jenna were huddled together, both crying now, but I wasn't finished. "There's one more thing," I said into the microphone. "Emily, sweetheart, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that DNA test you asked me about last week, the one you found in my truck." Emily's face appeared in the crowd, pale and frightened. "The results came back yesterday. Ben Castellano is not your biological father. I am. Whatever else happens, whatever your mother has done, you are my daughter and I love you." I set the microphone back on its stand and walked off the stage. Behind me, the crowd erupted into chaos. Sarah was screaming at Jenna. Ben was nowhere to be seen. Emily was crying in her friend's arms. I walked to my truck, got in, and drove away from the wreckage of my old life. 3 hours later, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts. Sarah, Jenna, Emily, my lawyer, reporters from the local newspaper. I ignored them all. The next morning, I found out that Ben had been fired from the law firm. Sarah was suspended pending an investigation into her expense account irregularities. Jenna's husband had filed for divorce. Emily came home Sunday night, her eyes red from crying. "Dad, I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you. You don't have anything to apologize for, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. What happens now? Now we figure out how to move forward, just you and me. What about Mom?" I looked at my daughter, this amazing young woman who deserved so much better than the mess her parents had created. "Your mom made her choices, Emily. Now she gets to live with the consequences." Oh. Sarah never came home. I heard she moved in with Jenna, who had lost her job and her marriage in the fallout from my revelation. Ben left town entirely, reportedly taking a job in another state. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house, primary custody of Emily, and most of our assets. Sarah got exactly what she'd earned, nothing. My former friends tried to reconcile, but I wasn't interested. They'd shown me who they really were when it mattered. I did make new friends, though. People who appreciated honesty and loyalty. People who understood that sometimes the only way to deal with betrayal is to expose it to the light. Emily thrived without the toxic drama of her mother's lies. She got into a good college, started dating a nice boy, began to trust people again. As for me, I learned that revenge isn't always about violence or destruction. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do to people who have wronged you is simply tell the truth. Sarah wanted to destroy my life while keeping her reputation intact. Instead, she lost everything while I gained something I'd never had before. Complete honesty about who I was and what I deserved. They say living well is the best revenge. But sometimes, living honestly is even better.